December 12th, 2024, Tuesday morning. The sound hit me before the cold did. Clack. The heavy brass deadbolt slid home. Thud. The vibration traveled through the doorframe and rattled my chest. I stood on the porch, my boots sinking into an inch of fresh Chicago snow. Through the frosted glass, a shadow moved. Quincy, my son. He didn't hesitate. He didn't pause to regret shoving his 68-year-old mother out into a blizzard. The shadow just turned and walked away. "It's just business, Mom," he had said, his voice flat and smooth like a polished stone. "The market won't wait. We need the equity." His hand had been on my back. Not a hug, a push, a gentle, firm pressure guiding me out of the hallway and onto the welcome mat. Business. The word echoed in my ears, louder than the wind howling off Lake Michigan. I reached for the doorknob. Locked. My keys were still on the hook inside. My coat was thin. My life was in there. My son had just evicted me. I gripped the handle of my rolling suitcase. It was the only thing he'd let me pack. "Don't make a scene, Mother," he'd whispered as he opened the door. "The neighbors are watching." I let go of the doorknob. The metal bit into my palm, cold and unforgiving. I turned around. The street was empty. Gray sky, gray pavement, white snow. I took the first step, then the second. Stop. Listen to that. Not the wind, the silence. The absolute silence of a life being erased in seconds. I dragged the suitcase toward the sidewalk. The wheels chattered over the salted concrete. Click-clack, click-clack. It sounded like a countdown. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a sharp, angry vibration against my hip. I pulled it out, my fingers stiffening in the chill. A text message. From Melanie, my daughter-in-law. I tapped the screen. An image loaded. It was my Steinway piano, my 1928 Model B, the one Otis bought me for our 10th anniversary. It was photographed in the living room, but the caption wasn't about music. It was a screenshot from Craigslist. Grand piano, heavy, taking up space, $500, buyer must haul immediately. I gasped. The air froze in my throat. $500? That instrument was worth $60,000. It wasn't furniture. It was my soul. A second text popped up below it. Buyer coming at 4 p.m. Don't worry, Estelle. I'll keep the cash for cleaning fees since you left such a mess. My hand shook. I wasn't just homeless, I was being dismantled, piece by piece. 40 years, I whispered. The wind whipped the words away. Erased in 40 seconds. Does that make your blood boil? Because mine is freezing over. If you want to see exactly how I make them pay for this, like the video and hit that subscribe button right now. Drop your country flag in the comments. I want to know who's standing with me. And watch until the very end because the payback is brutal. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I just stood there, letting the snow melt on my eyelashes. Why wasn't I crying? Maybe because I knew this was coming. The signs had been there, like discordant notes in a symphony, warning of the crash. 2 weeks earlier, November 28th, 2024. The memory pulled me back. The kitchen smelled of roasted turkey and sage, but the air felt toxic. I was washing dishes. The water was hot, soapy, comforting. "Estelle!" Melanie's voice shrilled from the living room. "This clutter is suffocating. How many music stands does one woman need?" "It's my studio, Melanie," I called back, scrubbing a plate harder than necessary. "I teach lessons." "Not for long," she muttered. I barely heard it. Then a different sound caught my ear. A low, frantic whisper coming from the hallway. I turned off the faucet. The silence in the kitchen amplified the voices through the wall. "I can't push it back, okay?" It was Quincy. His voice sounded tight, strained, like a violin string about to snap. "The silent partner is dead," he hissed. "I told you I can handle it. The deed is the only asset left." I dried my hands on a towel, my heart thumping a slow, heavy rhythm. "The silent partner?" "No," Quincy said. No, don't call the house. My mother is still occupying the asset. Just give me 2 weeks. The harbor deal depends on this capital. Occupying the asset. Is that what I was? An occupant? Dad's old files, Quincy said, his voice dropping lower. Did he leave anything else? Any other accounts? The trust documents are vague. I had leaned against the counter, feeling the granite press into my hip. Otis, my husband, the meticulous lawyer who never left a T uncrossed. Quincy walked into the kitchen a moment later. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. His pupils were pinpricks. "Hey, Mom," he said, grabbing a bottle of water. "Great turkey." "Who was on the phone?" I asked. Have you ever looked at your own child and realized you were looking at a stranger? Not the boy you raised, but someone hungry, someone dangerous. "Just work," he said, "boring stuff." "Hey, did Dad ever mention a secondary portfolio for the business?" "Your father kept his business at the office, Quincy." "Right," he said. He tapped the counter. Tap, tap, tap. Nervous energy. "Right. Well, we need to talk about the guest room. Melanie wants to turn it into a nursery. We might need you to move your things to the basement." "The basement is damp, Quincy. The piano won't survive." "It's just wood, Mom," he said. He took a sip of water, his eyes scanning the room like he was appraising it for an auction. "It's just wood." Present day, December 12th, 2024. I stood on the snowy sidewalk, gripping my phone. Just wood. He was selling it for $500. I put the phone away. My fingers brushed against something else in the hidden lining of my purse. Something cold, heavy, metallic. I unzipped the inner pocket. It wasn't money. I pulled it out. A matte black card. No numbers, no bank logo, just a small gold chip and a signature etched in silver on the back. Otis Hargrove. My breath hitched. I could almost smell the antiseptic of the hospice room. June 14th, 2024. The room had been dim. The only sound was the rhythmic whoosh of the oxygen machine. Otis's hand was frail in mine. His skin felt like paper, but his grip was surprisingly strong. "Essie," he whispered. His voice was a rasp, like dry leaves scraping pavement. "I'm here, O," I said. "I'm right here." He fumbled with the nightstand drawer. His shaking hand pulled out the black envelope. He pressed it into my palm. "Take it," he wheezed. "What is it?" "Insurance," he said. A cough rattled his chest. "Not for me." "For you?" I opened the envelope. The black metal card slid out into my hand. It was heavier than it looked. Denser. "Is this a credit card?" "No," Otis said. His eyes opened, suddenly clear, sharp. The lawyer was back, even for a second. "It's a weapon, Essie. But you have to promise me something. Anything. Don't use it for groceries. Don't use it for bills." He squeezed my hand until it hurt. "Use this only if the music stops. Only if you have nowhere left to go. Only if Quincy..." He trailed off. "If Quincy what?" "If our son forgets who he is," Otis whispered. A tear leaked from the corner of his eye. "He has my ambition, Essie, but he has none of my restraint. If he ever tries to take the roof from over your head, you use this." The memory faded, but the weight remained. The card felt like ice in my hand. "If he ever tries to take the roof from over your head." I looked back at the brownstone. The curtains were drawn. The house was sealed tight against me. I had nowhere to go. I had $50 in cash. My pension check didn't clear until the 1st. "Okay, Otis," I whispered to the gray sky. The music stopped. I gripped the handle of my suitcase. I wasn't going to a shelter. I wasn't going to a motel on the interstate. Otis had been a senior partner at the firm. We had lived well, but quietly. He always said, "Real wealth whispers, Estelle." I walked to the curb and raised my hand. A yellow cab slowed down, tires crunching in the slush. I climbed in. The heat blasted my face, stinging my cold cheeks. "Where to, lady?" the driver asked. I looked at the black card in my hand. I didn't know if it had a limit. I didn't know if it even worked. Quincy said Otis had left us with complicated debts, but Otis had never lied to me. The Langham, I said. Downtown. The driver raised an eyebrow in the rearview mirror. He looked at my worn wool coat. He looked at the old suitcase. That's pricey, lady. Just drive, I said. My voice didn't shake. The Langham Hotel, 1 p.m. The lobby smelled of white tea and expensive leather. It was quiet, the kind of hush that money buys. I rolled my suitcase across the marble floor. My boots left small, wet smudges on the polished stone. I felt every eye on me. A woman in a dated coat dragging her life behind her. Focus on the details, the crystal chandelier overhead, the fresh orchids on the mahogany desk, the way the receptionist's perfectly tailored blazer didn't have a single wrinkle. I approached the desk. The young woman looked up. Her smile was polite, practiced, and thin as a razor. Checking in? She asked. Her eyes flicked to my suitcase, then to my messy hair. Yes, I said. I need a room, ideally a suite. Do you have a reservation? No. I see. She typed something. Click, click, click. We are quite full due to the holiday season. Our standard rooms start at $800 a night. She waited. It was a challenge. She expected me to blanch and leave. I reached into my purse. I pulled out the black metal card. I placed it on the marble counter. It made a solid, heavy sound. The receptionist paused. She frowned at the card. No Visa logo, no MasterCard hologram, just black metal and the silver signature. I'm afraid we require a major credit card for incidentals, ma'am, she said, her voice dropping a freezing degree. I don't recognize this bank. Try it, I said. She sighed. A tiny, impatient exhale through her nose. Ma'am, the machine won't even... Try it. She picked up the card. She seemed surprised by the weight of it. She flipped it over, looking for a magnetic strip. There was only the chip. She inserted it into the reader on the counter. I held my breath. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Please, Otis, don't let it be empty. Don't let me be humiliated. The machine processed. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then it happened. It wasn't a beep. It wasn't the chirpy little ding of an approved transaction. Weep, weep, weep! A piercing, oscillating siren erupted from the card reader. It rose in pitch, louder and louder, cutting through the hushed lobby like a fire alarm. The receptionist jumped back, her hands flying to her mouth. What is that? She gasped. Make it stop! The screen of the card reader wasn't green. It was flashing a strobing red light. Code black. Code black. Every head in the lobby turned. A bellman dropped a bag. I stammered. Panic surged in my throat. Had I broken it? Was it stolen? 2 large men in dark suits materialized from the side office. Security. They moved fast, closing the distance in strides. Ma'am! The receptionist shouted over the siren. Step back from the counter. Don't touch the terminal. She looked terrified, not annoyed. Terrified. I don't know what happened, I said, backing away. My legs hit my suitcase. I stumbled. The security guards flanked me. They didn't grab me, but they boxed me in. Security to front desk. One of them spoke into his lapel mic. We have a Protocol Omega trigger. Repeat, Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega? The siren continued to wail. Weep, weep! I felt tears prick my eyes. This was it. I was going to jail. Quincy had been right. Otis left us in debt, and I was trying to pay with a fraudulent card. Please, I whispered. I'll leave. Just give me the card back. Nobody touches the card, a booming voice shouted from the mezzanine stairs. I looked up. A man in a pristine 3-piece suit was sprinting down the marble steps. He was older, distinguished, with silver hair and a look of absolute horror on his face. It was the general manager. I recognized him from the website. He rushed past the security guards. He practically vaulted over a luggage cart. He reached the desk and slammed his hand onto a hidden button under the counter. The siren cut off instantly. The silence that followed was deafening. My ears rang. The manager turned to me. He was breathing hard. He smoothed his tie, swallowed, and then, to the shock of everyone in the lobby, he bowed. A deep, respectful bow. "Mrs. Hargrove," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "my humblest apologies. We have been waiting for this signal for 6 months." I blinked. "Waiting?" He straightened up. He looked furious at the receptionist, then back at me with soft, doe-like eyes. "You aren't a guest, ma'am," he said, loud enough for the security guards to hear. "You are the owner's priority." Imagine standing on a trapdoor expecting to fall into a dungeon, only to have it lift you to a throne. That vertigo? That's what I felt. "I don't understand," I said. "My husband, he just gave me this card." "Mr. Abernathy has been notified," the manager said. "He is en route from the bank now. He said if this card was ever used, it meant the worst had happened." He gestured to the receptionist. "Give Mrs. Hargrove the presidential suite key. Immediately." "But sir," the girl stammered, her face pale. "The payment didn't clear. The machine said, code black," he snapped. "That means her credit limit is irrelevant. It means she owns the bank." He turned back to me and offered his arm. "Please, Mrs. Hargrove, leave the suitcase. The bellman will bring it. Let's get you out of this cold." I took his arm. I felt numb. I looked back at the card reader. The black metal card sat there, innocent and silent. "Otis, what did you do?" As we walked toward the elevators, I thought of Quincy. I thought of the text message, the piano. The music stops. "No, Otis, I think the music is just beginning." I looked at the manager. "Who is Mr. Abernathy?" "He's the trustee, madam," the manager said, pressing the elevator button, and he sounded ready for war. The elevator doors slid open. I stepped inside, leaving the lobby staring. I had come in homeless. I was going up in the presidential elevator, but my heart was still back on that porch, with the sound of the deadbolt. Clack. Thud. Quincy thought he had locked me out. He didn't realize he had just locked himself in with something much worse. He had triggered Protocol Omega, and I had a feeling Protocol Omega didn't show mercy. As the elevator rose, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Melanie. "Are you at the shelter yet? Don't call us. We're busy prepping the house." I looked at the gold trim of the elevator. I looked at the manager, who was standing at attention. I didn't reply. I just tightened my grip on my purse. The game had changed, and it was my turn to play. December 12th, 2024, 2:00 p.m. The presidential suite was silent, too silent. It wasn't a peaceful quiet. It was the heavy, pressurized silence of a storm waiting to break. I sat on a velvet sofa, a cup of Earl Grey tea trembling in my hand. The porcelain clattered against the saucer, clink, clink, betraying my nerves. Outside, the Chicago River churned gray and angry. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and apprehension. Then the knock came. Not the polite tap of room service. A frantic, heavy pounding. Thud, thud, thud. The hotel manager opened the door. Mr. Elias Abernathy burst in. He looked exactly as I remembered him from Otis's funeral 6 months ago, only wetter. His trench coat was soaked with melted snow. His silver hair was plastered to his forehead. He was 65, but he moved with the frantic energy of a man half his age. "Estelle!" he gasped. He didn't wait for an invitation. He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to one knee beside the coffee table. "Mr. Abernathy!" I put the tea down before I spilled it. "Elias, what's going on?" "Estelle." He took a deep breath, his chest heaving. "Are you hurt? Are you safe?" "I'm fine," I said. Cold, confused, but fine. "Where is Quincy?" The name tasted like ash in my mouth. "At the house," I said. My voice sounded thin in the massive room. He kicked me out, Elias. He changed the locks." Elias closed his eyes. He exhaled a long, shuddering breath. It looked like relief. "He did it," Elias whispered. "Otis called it. to the day. Called what? Elias reached into his leather briefcase. He pulled out a thick red file folder. It was sealed with heavy wax. The card, Elias said, pointing to the black rectangle sitting on the table. It's not a credit account, Estelle. It's a dead man's switch. You know what a dead man's switch is, don't you? It's a fail-safe. A bomb that only detonates when the operator stops holding the handle. Otis built a bomb, and Quincy just let go of the handle. Otis set this up 3 years ago, Elias said, his voice gaining strength. He knew Quincy was desperate. He knew about the gambling. He knew about the bad developments. Gambling? I whispered. Otis protected you, Elias said. He froze the real assets. As long as you were living in that brownstone, the trust was dormant. The money was locked tight. Quincy couldn't touch it, but neither could you. He tapped the red file. Tap, tap. But the terms were specific. If the primary beneficiary, you, ever attempted a transaction at a hotel or shelter within 5 miles of the primary residence, it triggers Protocol Omega. And what does Protocol Omega do? I asked. Elias smiled. It was a wolfish smile, a lawyer's smile. It assumes involuntary displacement, he said. It assumes Quincy failed his duty of care, and it executes the penalty clause. He broke the wax seal on the file. Snap. The assets unlock, Estelle, all of them. The offshore accounts, the investment portfolio, and most importantly, he slid a document toward me. It was a deed. The house, I said, reading the header. The paper felt heavy, like parchment. Quincy thinks he inherited the house, Elias said. He thinks he has the title, but he doesn't. Otis transferred the deed to the Sovereign Trust 5 years ago. I stared at the paper. Owner of record, Hargrove Sovereign Trust. Quincy has a power of attorney, Elias said. He's using it to list the house. He thinks he can sell it because he thinks you're incompetent or compliant. He's selling it tomorrow, I said. The open house is tomorrow. Elias laughed. A short, sharp bark. He can't sell it, Elias said, because as of the moment you use that card, you are the sole trustee. He doesn't own the roof over his head, Estelle. You do. I sat back against the velvet cushions. I owned the house. Remember Quincy? My son, the one who shoved me into the snow this morning claiming he needed the equity. He'd been living in a fantasy. He was selling a house he didn't even own. He doesn't know? I asked. No, Elias said. And if we play this right, he won't know until it's too late. Be honest. Would you tell him? If your son came to you crying, begging, saying the loan sharks were at the door, would you have handed over the keys to the vault? Otis knew the answer was yes. He needed you to be pushed, Elias said. He needed you to see Quincy's true face before he gave you the weapon to destroy him. Destroy him? I shrank back. He's my son, Elias. He put you in the snow, Estelle. Elias slammed the water glass down. Water sloshed onto the table. He put you in the snow so he could sell your home to pay off his mistakes. Mistakes, I repeated. I remembered the phone call. The harbor project. Elias froze. He turned slowly. What did you say? I heard him on the phone, I said. He talked about the harbor project. And we investors. Elias's face went pale. The triumphant energy vanished, replaced by a cold dread. Investors, Elias whispered. He hurried back to his briefcase. He started digging through a different section, a black section. What is it? The harbor project, Elias muttered. That was Quincy's development in the South Loop. It went belly up in 2022. I thought he liquidated it. He said he owed money, I said. He said the silent partner was dead. Elias pulled out a folder. He opened it. His eyes scanned the pages rapidly. The rustling of paper sounded loud in the quiet room. Oh, God. Elias? These aren't banks, Estelle, he whispered. His voice dropped so low I had to lean in. The room felt suddenly colder despite the heat. The investors in the harbor project, they're private equity. Unregulated. Loan sharks, I said. Worse, Elias said. Syndicate. If he owes them, and if he doesn't pay. He said he needs the house money by Friday, I said, or he's in trouble. Elias looked at me. His eyes were wide. If he doesn't pay by Friday, Estelle, they won't just sue him, they'll break his legs, or worse. My hand flew to my mouth. We have to give him the money, I said. Elias, release the funds. Pay them. I can't, Elias said. The trust has a conduct clause. I can't release funds to a beneficiary who has committed fraud against the primary trustee. If I pay his debts after he evicted you, I go to jail for mismanagement. So he's trapped, I said. He's desperate, Elias corrected. That's why he evicted you. He's terrified. Desperation makes people dangerous, but it also makes them careless. Quincy was about to make a mistake that would cost him everything. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I did. It was another text from Melanie. I tapped the screen. Update. Price dropped to $0. Free. Come get this monstrosity before I take an axe to it. First person with a truck gets it. I stared at the screen. The fear for Quincy vanished. It was sucked out of the room, replaced by something hotter, something brighter. An axe? To my Steinway? My breathing quickened. Short, sharp intakes of air through my nose. Estelle? Elias asked. I stood up. I walked to the window. I looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, my son was terrified. But somewhere out there, his wife was threatening to chop up my memories for firewood. He made his bed, I said. My voice was steady now. The tremor was gone. Estelle? Melanie is giving away the piano, I said. Free to a good home, or a bad one. I turned to Elias. Can we buy it? I asked. Can we buy it back? Elias looked at the text on my screen. A slow smile spread across his face. Buy the piano? He asked. Yes, before she destroys it. Elias closed the file. The snap sounded like a gunshot. Mrs. Hargrove, Elias said, with the resources we have now, we don't need to buy the piano. He picked up his phone. We can buy the moving company, and I believe the timing is perfect. The suite was dark. I hadn't turned on the lights. I watched the city lights twinkle, cold and distant. My phone rang, a small, chirpy ringtone. The Lego movie theme song, Leo, my grandson. I answered it immediately. Leo? Grandma? His voice was tiny, muffled. He sounded like he was speaking into a pile of coats. The acoustics were deadened, woolen. I'm here, baby, I said. Are you okay? I'm in the closet, he whispered. Mommy and Daddy are yelling. My heart broke. Don't listen to them, Leo. Put your hands over your ears. Daddy is crying, Leo said. He's on the phone with the nice lady, Mrs. Vance. Who is Mrs. Vance? The lady who wants the house, Leo sniffled. Daddy told her she has to come tomorrow. He screamed at her. He said, cash only, no inspections. Cash only, no inspections. He was panicking. And Mommy? I asked. Mommy is happy, Leo said. She's measuring your room. She said the piano is trash, Grandma. She said it smells like old people. I gripped the phone. You think you know how much words can hurt? Try hearing your life's passion described as trash by the woman raising your grandchild. It's not trash, Leo, I said firmly. It's magic, and I'm not going to let her hurt it. Are you coming home? Leo asked. It's cold. I can't come home tonight, Leo, but I'll be there soon, I promise. Pinky swear? Pinky swear. I hung up. I looked at Elias, who was working on a laptop at the dining table. The screen glowed blue on his face. The buyers are the Vance family, I said. They're coming tomorrow. Cash deal. We'll be ready, Elias said. The security team is prepped. They have the uniforms. Uniforms? Movers, Elias said. Work order 404. We aren't going to stop the open house, Estelle. We aren't? No, Elias said. If we stop it now, Quincy just finds another buyer next week. We need to stop it permanently. We need to humiliate him in front of the money. Let them show the house, I said, realizing the plan. Exactly, Elias said. Let them show the house. And while they're showing it, we'll show them the truth. I looked at the black card sitting on the table. Otis said it was a weapon. Tomorrow, I was going to pull the trigger. What time do the Vances arrive? Elias asked. 10 a.m., I said. Quincy wants them in and out before noon. Then we arrive at 10:15, Elias said. Perfect timing for a disaster. 10:15, 10:15. The time my life ended this morning. The time their nightmare begins tomorrow. I walked to the bedroom. I needed to sleep. I needed to be ready. I touched the black card one last time. It was cold, but for the first time in 12 hours, I felt warm. Good night, Otis, I whispered. Thank you for the music. December 13th, 2024, Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Forget the quiet luxury of the hotel. Come back to the brownstone. But it didn't sound like home anymore. It sounded like a stage play. Click-clack, click-clack. Melanie's high heels struck the hardwood floors with aggressive precision. She was leading the Vance family through the foyer, her voice pitched an octave higher than normal. And here we have the original crown molding, Melanie chirped, fully restored. We wanted to honor the history while updating the vibe. Quincy stood by the window. He wasn't looking at the molding. He was staring at the street, his left foot tapping a frantic rhythm against the baseboard. Tap, 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 tap. It's charming, Mrs. Vance said. Her voice echoed in the empty hallway. Truly charming. But the price point. For a cash offer. It's priced to move, Quincy blurted out. He turned around too fast. We have a business opportunity in Florida. We need to close by Friday. Mr. Vance frowned. Friday? That's 48 hours away. We haven't even seen the inspection report. The house is solid, Quincy said, wiping sweat from his upper lip. My father was meticulous. He maintained everything. Melanie shot Quincy a warning glance. What Quincy means, she said smoothly, is that we are motivated sellers. Come, let me show you the music room. It's the heart of the house. They moved into the living room. The space was dominated by my Steinway. Melanie hadn't managed to sell it yet. It sat there like a black island in a sea of beige staging furniture. Oh, wow, Mrs. Vance said. She ran a hand along the curve of the piano lid. Does this come with the house? Melanie laughed. It was a brittle, tinkling sound. The piano? Oh, heavens, no, Melanie said. That old thing is leaving today. It takes up so much space, doesn't it? Imagine a sectional here, or a modern art piece. I think it's beautiful, Mrs. Vance said softly. It's heavy, Quincy muttered, and it's in the way. Ding-dong. The doorbell rang. It wasn't the polite chime of a guest. It was a long, insistent press. Quincy jumped. Who is that? The open house isn't until noon. Maybe it's the stager, Melanie said. I'll handle it. She walked to the door, her heels clicking. I wasn't there, but I knew exactly what was about to happen. The trap was sprung. Melanie opened the door. Can I help you? She asked. Delivery for Hargrove Trust, a deep voice boomed. 4 men in gray coveralls pushed past her. They didn't ask permission. They marched into the foyer, their heavy work boots thudding against the floor. Excuse me, Melanie shrieked. We are showing the home. You can't just barge in. The lead mover didn't even look at her. He held up a clipboard. Work order 404, he said. Property retrieval. We're here for the Steinway. Quincy ran into the hallway. What? No, I didn't hire movers. Trust hired us, the mover said. He signaled to his team. Let's go, boys. Legs off first. The men marched into the living room. Mrs. Vance gasped and pressed herself against the wall. What is happening? Mr. Vance asked. It's a mistake, Quincy yelled. Get out! I'm the owner. Paperwork says otherwise, pal, the mover said. He pulled a power drill from his belt. Whoosh! The sound of the high-torque drill shattered the polite atmosphere. It was violent, loud. The screech of metal bit twisting into wood echoed off the high ceilings. Clank. One of the men dropped a heavy moving blanket onto the floor. "Careful with the finish," the lead mover shouted over the noise. "Trustee said it's worth 60 grand. 60,000? Mrs. Vance whispered. "I thought you said it was trash." Melanie's face turned crimson. She grabbed the lead mover's arm. "Stop this!" she screamed. "You are ruining my showing!" The mover stopped. He turned off the drill. The silence was sudden and heavy. He looked down at Melanie's hand on his arm. Then he looked at her face. "Lady," he said, his voice low and bored, "I don't care about your showing. I care about my paycheck. Talk to the trustee. We just moved the wood." "Whereast?" He fired the drill back up. Melanie stumbled back. She looked at the Vances. She tried to smile, but her mouth just twitched. "So sorry," she shouted over the mechanical screeching. "Just a scheduling conflict. As you can see, and very efficient service." Mr. Vance wasn't looking at the efficiency. He was looking at Quincy, who was shaking in the corner. "Honey," Mr. Vance said to his wife, "let's go, now. If you are cheering for the movers right now, hit that subscribe button. I want to know, would you have done the same thing? Tell me in the comments if Melanie deserved that humiliation." The front door slammed shut. Bang. The Vances were gone. Their luxury sedan peeled away from the curb, tires spinning on the ice. Inside the living room, the silence returned, but the piano was gone. Just 4 indentations in the carpet where the legs had stood. "They're gone," Melanie whispered. "They left." She turned on Quincy. Her voice wasn't brittle anymore. It was jagged. "You idiot!" she screamed. "You said the title was clean. You said your mother was handled." "I thought she was," Quincy yelled back. He was pacing, running his hands through his hair. "She's supposed to be at a shelter. She has no money." "Someone hired those movers, Quincy. That wasn't charity. That was a professional crew." "It's sabotage," Quincy muttered. "She's sabotaging us." "Does she know?" Melanie asked. The air in the room changed. "Does she know about the loan?" Quincy stopped pacing. He leaned against the wall, sliding down until he hit the floor. He put his head in his hands. "If she knows," he whispered. "She knows I'm dead." His phone chimed. Not a text tone. A priority alert. Quincy fumbled for it. His hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped the device. He read the screen. His skin turned the color of old paste. "What?" Melanie asked. "What is it?" Quincy held up the phone. "Friday, noon, the full amount, or we send a representative." "Who is that?" Melanie asked. "The investors," Quincy whispered. "They aren't waiting for the closing." Remember Estelle, the mother he discarded like furniture? She was sitting in a warm hotel suite right now, but Quincy was sitting on the floor of an empty house, realizing that the cold outside was nothing compared to the chill coming for him. "Friday," Melanie said. "That's in 48 hours." "We need the Vances back," Quincy said, scrambling up. "I'll drop the price. I'll take 50,000 off. I'll take anything." How much is a life worth? To Quincy, his mother's life was worth the equity in the house. Now he was finding out exactly what his own life was worth to the Sharks. December 14th, 2024, Thursday morning, 9:02 a.m. Quincy sat in his Range Rover, parked 2 streets away from the house. He couldn't make the call inside. He didn't want Melanie to hear the begging. The car was cold. He hadn't turned the engine on to save gas. He dialed the number. No name, just private. It rang once. Click. "Mr. Hargrove," a voice said. It wasn't angry. It wasn't shouting. It was distorted, digital, but terrifyingly calm, like a machine reading an obituary. "I need more time," Quincy blurted out. "The closing, there was a hiccup, a scheduling error. The buyers are signing tomorrow, but the wire might not clear until Monday." "Monday," the voice repeated. "Yes, Monday morning, first thing. I'll pay the late fee, whatever you want." There was a pause on the line. The static hissed. "We don't want late fees, Quincy." the voice said. "We aren't a bank. We don't have payment plans." I know, but you borrowed $800,000 for a project that didn't exist, the voice said. That is theft, Quincy. It existed. The permits just... Friday, noon, please, Quincy whispered. Tears leaked from his eyes, hot against his cold cheeks. I can't make the wire happen that fast. Then bring cash, the voice said, or bring the deed. The deed. Or, the voice continued, ignoring him, we take a finger. For every hour you are late, starting with the thumb. The threat hung in the air, heavy and wet. It wasn't a movie line, it was a promise. Don't be late, Quincy. Click. The line went dead. Quincy dropped the phone. He stared at his hands. He stared at his thumbs gripping the leather steering wheel. He was trapped. The Vances were his only exit. If they didn't sign tomorrow, he wouldn't just be broke. He would be dismembered. The threat was real. The clock was ticking. The abstraction of financial trouble had just become the concrete reality of physical violence. December 14, 2024, 2:00 p.m. Back in the presidential suite, the atmosphere was different. It wasn't fearful. It was surgical. Elias Abernathy sat at the dining table, surrounded by stacks of paper. He had been digging into the harbor project for 24 hours straight. I was sipping coffee, watching him. He looked like a dog that had caught a scent. "Estelle," he said. He didn't look up. His voice was flat. "What did you find?" I asked. "I traced the debt," Elias said. "Quincy was right. He owes the syndicate, a shell company called VM Consulting. Can we pay them?" I asked again. "Directly?" "We don't have to," Elias said. He picked up a document. It was old, yellowed at the edges. When Quincy started this project in 2021, he needed a guarantor, Elias said. The Sharks wouldn't lend to him without collateral. He didn't have any. So how did he get the money? Otis, Elias whispered. My husband's name hung in the air. Otis signed? I asked. He co-signed with loan sharks? No, Elias said. He turned the document around. Otis didn't co-sign, Estelle. He bought the note. Look closely at the signature line. Not VM Consulting. Note holder, HS Trust. Otis set up a shell company, Elias explained, his eyes wide. He knew Quincy was going to the Sharks, so Otis stepped in between them. He bought the debt from the syndicate 3 years ago. He paid them off so they wouldn't hurt Quincy. I stood up. My legs felt weak. You mean... I mean, the Sharks don't hold the paper anymore, Elias said. They are just the collection arm. They think they are collecting for VM Consulting. But VM Consulting is owned by the Hargrove Sovereign Trust. Otis owns the debt, I whispered. No, Elias said. He looked me dead in the eye. You do. The silence that fell over the room was absolute. I own my son's debt? You own his life, Elias said. Technically, you are the investor he is terrified of. You can call the loan due, or you can forgive it. I walked to the window. The snow was falling harder now. Otis, you brilliant, terrifying man. He hadn't just given me a shield, he had given me a sword. The city was a grid of lights below me. Somewhere in that grid, Quincy was panicking. He was terrified of a monster in the dark. He didn't know the monster was his mother. What do we do? Elias asked from the sofa. The closing is tomorrow at 11. If the Vances sign, Quincy gets the cash. He pays off the debt to the trust accounts and he walks away free. He walks away, I repeated. After kicking me out, after selling the piano. Yes. And if the Vances don't sign? Then the Sharks come for him, Elias said. They don't know the trust owns the debt. They just know they get a percentage of the collection. If he doesn't pay, they will hurt him. I looked at my reflection in the glass. I looked old, tired. But my eyes looked like Otis's. What is a parent's duty? To protect their child from the fire? or to let them burn so they finally learn not to touch the stove. He needs the money to save his skin, I said. Yes. And he's selling my home to get it. Yes. I turned around. The music stops tomorrow, Elias. Estelle? We are going to the closing, I said. I'm not going to let him sell the house. But the sharks, Elias warned. If the sale fails, they will be waiting outside. I know, I said. I picked up the black card. Let them wait. It's time Quincy learned exactly who holds the lease on his life. Prepare the car, Elias. We're going to crash a party. December 15th, 2024, Friday morning, 11:30 a.m. The conference room on the 42nd floor of the title company smelled of stale coffee and expensive cologne. It was a sterile, glass-walled cage overlooking the city. Quincy sat at the head of the polished mahogany table. He was wearing his best suit, an Italian wool that cost more than my car, but it couldn't hide the terror radiating off him. Sweat slicked his hair back, and a droplet was tracing a slow path down his temple. He kept glancing out the floor-to-ceiling window, down at the street, at a matte black SUV parked directly in front of the building entrance. It had been idling there for an hour. "Can we sign?" Quincy asked, his voice tight. He dabbed his forehead with a silk handkerchief. "I have a flight, a business trip." The title officer. A woman with severe glasses and a no-nonsense bob didn't look up. She was organizing a stack of legal documents with maddening slowness. Click, click, click. The sound of her pen tapping against the table echoed in the tense silence. Across the table, Melanie was in full performance mode. She was leaning toward Mrs. Vance, laughing at a joke that wasn't funny. "Oh, you'll love the neighborhood," Melanie chirped. "The autumn colors on the tree-lined streets are just breathtaking. We hated to leave, didn't we, Quincy?" Quincy jerked his head away from the window. "What?" "Oh, yes. Breathtaking. Can we please just sign the papers?" Mr. Vance, the cash buyer, frowned. He checked his heavy gold watch. "We are waiting on the final title clearance, Mr. Hargrove," the title officer said without looking up. Her fingers flew across her keyboard. Tap, tap, tap. Focus on the sound, the ticking of the wall clock. Tick, tick, tick. It was counting down the seconds to noon, to the deadline. "It's clean," Quincy snapped. His knee was bouncing under the table, shaking his water glass. "My father owned that house for 40 years. It's clean." "I'm sure it is," the officer said smoothly. "Standard procedure. Ah, here it comes." A printer in the corner whirred to life. Whirrs. A single sheet of paper slid into the tray. The officer picked it up. Her eyes scanned the document. Then they stopped. She frowned. The silence in the room thickened. It went from tense to suffocating. The title officer adjusted her glasses. She read the paper again. "Is there a problem?" Mr. Vance asked, his voice sharp. He sat up straighter. The officer looked at Quincy over the rim of her spectacles. It wasn't a friendly look. "Mr. Hargrove," she said, her voice cool and professional, "I cannot proceed with this closing." "What?" Quincy half rose out of his chair. "Why not? The wire is ready." "A lien just hit the title," the officer said. She tapped the paper. 12 minutes ago, an emergency filing. The trap is sprung. If you want to see him squirm when he realizes who said it, hit that subscribe button now." "A lien?" Melanie shrieked. "From who?" "The contractors. We paid them." "Not a contractor," the officer said. She slid the paper across the polished table. "It's a trust lien, filed by the Sovereign Private Bank." Quincy grabbed the paper. His hands were shaking so violently the paper rattled. "Sovereign," he whispered. His face went gray. That's Dad's bank." "It's a mistake," Melanie yelled, standing up now. "Override it. Call them. We have a cash buyer here." "I cannot override a trust lien, Mrs. Hargrove," the officer said, "especially not one filed under Protocol Omega." Quincy dropped the paper. He looked like he'd been shot. "Protocol Omega," he breathed. He looked at the window again, at the black SUV. The air in the room changed instantly. The pretense of a happy home sale vanished. The smell of fear replaced the smell of cologne. "Quincy, what is going on?" Mr. Vance demanded. He stood up, buttoning his jacket. "You said this title was clean." "It is. It's just my mother's estate lawyer. He's confused." The door to the conference room opened. It wasn't a quiet opening. It was a statement. And there he was. Remember Elias Abernathy, the nervous banker who brought me tea in the hotel? He wasn't nervous anymore. He walked in first, holding the door open, looking like the executioner he was, and behind him was me. I walked into the room. I wasn't wearing my old wool coat. I was wearing a new cashmere wrap Elias had charged to the room. I didn't feel cold. I felt incandescent. The Vances stared. Melanie's jaw dropped. Quincy stood up, knocking his chair over. It clattered loudly against the wall. "Mom," he choked out, "what are you doing here?" I didn't look at him. I walked straight to the table. I didn't sit down. I reached into my purse. I pulled out the matte black metal card. I raised my hand and let it fall. Thud. The heavy sound of the metal hitting the mahogany table echoed like a gunshot in the silent room. "Mrs. Hargrove," the title officer said, looking from me to the card, "you are the trustee." "I am," I said. My voice was calm, clear. "And I am putting a stop to this theft." The question was never if I could stop him. It was when. The deed was in the trust. The trust was activated. The house was mine. Quincy looked at the card. He recognized it. He'd seen it in Otis's wallet for years. "You," he whispered. "Dad gave it to you?" "He did," I said. "He said it was insurance against you." "Estelle, you can't do this," Melanie cried, moving toward me. Elias stepped in front of her, a solid wall of banker's wool. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance," I said, turning to the buyers, "my son does not own the property at 1412 Astor Street. He has no legal right to sell it. The deed belongs to the Hargrove Sovereign Trust." I pointed to the black card. "And I am the sole signatory of that trust." Look at the scene from above. The long table, the panicked son, the furious wife, the confused buyers, and the mother finally holding the gavel. "It's over, Quincy," I said. "The sale is void." Mr. Vance looked at Quincy. The look wasn't friendly. It was the look of a man who had almost been swindled out of $1.5 million cash. He picked up his checkbook and ripped the check he had already written into pieces. "Reap?" "You lied to us," Mr. Vance spat at Quincy. "No, I didn't. It's just a technicality," Quincy pleaded, grabbing Vance's sleeve. Vance shook him off. "Come on, honey," Vance said to his wife. "You people are sick," Mrs. Vance said, looking from Melanie to Quincy. "Luring us into your family drama. We're calling our lawyer. Expect a suit for damages." "Wait. Please," Melanie cried, chasing them to the door. "We can fix this. 50,000 off the price. 100,000. Mr. Vance opened the door. He looked back one last time. "I wouldn't take that house if you paid me," he said. The door slammed shut. Bang. The title officer stood up, gathered her papers, and walked out a side door without a word. We were alone. Me, Elias, Quincy, and Melanie. And the ticking clock, 5 minutes to noon. "Mom, you have to fix this." "I just did." "No, you have to let them sign. Call them back." "Why, Quincy? Why is it so urgent?" "Because they're going to kill me." Quincy ran to the window. He pressed his hands against the glass. The black SUV was still there. A man got out of the passenger side. He was big. He was wearing a heavy coat. He was looking up at the building. "They're here," Quincy whimpered. He turned to me, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, please. The men outside. They aren't banks. They're syndicate. If I don't have the money by noon, they'll hurt me. They said they'd take my thumbs." He held up his trembling hands. I looked at him. My son. A 42-year-old man crying about broken thumbs because he tried to steal my home. "I know who they are, Quincy," I said. He blinked. You know?" I know about the harbor project, I said. I know you borrowed $800,000 from VM Consulting. Quincy froze. How? I nodded to Elias. Elias reached into his briefcase. He didn't pull out a red folder this time. He pulled out a black one. He slid it across the table to Quincy. Look at the note holder, Quincy, Elias said. Quincy opened the file with shaking hands. He read the top document. VM Consulting, he mumbled. Yes, that's them, the loan sharks. Look at the line below it, I said. He looked. His eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. No, he whispered. That's impossible. Otis bought the debt, I said. 3 years ago. He knew you were in trouble. He knew who you were dealing with. He bought the note to protect you. The smoking gun wasn't the house deed. It was the loan agreement. The twist that redefined the entire battlefield. Quincy stared at the paper. Note holder, Hargrove Sovereign Trust. You don't owe the sharks, Quincy, I said. My voice was quiet in the cavernous room. You owe me. Imagine the person you fear most in the world. Now imagine finding out that person is actually working for your mother. That's the look on Quincy's face. You own the debt? He whispered. I own the note, I corrected, which means I own the collateral. Collateral? Your company, Quincy. The Harbor Project, LLC. Your car, your personal accounts, everything you pledged against that loan. He backed away from the table. Dad wouldn't do that, he said. He wouldn't trap me. He saved you. I slammed my hand on the table. The sound made everyone jump. He saved you from having your legs broken 3 years ago. And what did you do with that second chance? You gambled it away and then tried to throw me onto the street to cover your losses. Quincy fell to his knees. He literally collapsed onto the plush conference room carpet. Mom, please, he begged, clutching at the hem of my cashmere wrap. Please, just release the funds. Let me pay them off. I'll do anything. I'll sign the house over for real. Just save me. He was pathetic, and I hated him for it. Get up, Quincy, I said, pulling my wrap away from his grasping hands. Have some dignity. Melanie rushed over to him. She knelt beside him, glaring up at me. How can you be so cruel? She screamed. He's your son. He's begging you. He tried to rob me, Melanie, I said. It was just a house, a stupid house, Melanie yelled. You have the trust. You have millions. Why do you need that dusty old museum? You're ruining our lives over bricks and mortar. You're so selfish. Selfish. The word hung in the air. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Her designer shoes, her perfectly highlighted hair, the diamond ring Quincy bought her with money he didn't have. Selfish? I repeated. I walked around the table until I was standing right over them. Selfishness, Melanie, is taking a woman's life, her memories, her sanctuary, and trying to sell it to buy yourself another 6 months of pretending you're rich. I leaned down. Selfishness is taking the piano my husband gave me, the instrument I taught my son to play on, the instrument I played at your wedding, and listing it on Craigslist for $500. Her eyes widened. She didn't know I knew. You tried to sell my history for cleaning fees, I hissed. You don't get to speak to me about selfishness. I straightened up. I felt tall, powerful. It ends today, I said. The lying, the stealing, the pretending, it all ends today. If you think Estelle is right, if you think selfishness is selling your mother's soul for cash, hit that like button right now. Show me you're on the right side of this. I turned back to Elias. Execute the call, I said. Quincy scrambled to his feet. Call? What call? The loan, Elias said, opening his laptop. As trustee, your mother is calling the VM Consulting note due, immediately, in full. Wait, no, Quincy shouted. You can't. The terms said if you defaulted on any other obligation, the note is callable. Elias said, typing. Click, clack, click. Fraudulent conveyance of the collateral, trying to sell the house, is a default. Elias hit the enter key. It made a sharp, decisive sound. It's done, Elias said. "The demand has been issued electronically." "But I don't have the money," Quincy wailed. "You know I don't have it." "We know," I said. Elias reached into his briefcase one last time. He pulled out a rubber stamp and an ink pad. He stamped the top document in the black folder. Thwack. The red ink spelled out one word: seized. What does it sound like when a man's life is repossessed? It sounds like the thwack of a rubber stamp. "Since you cannot pay," Elias said calmly, "the trust is exercising its right to seize the collateral. Your business accounts have been frozen. Your car has been flagged for repossession. Your personal assets are now property of the trust." You're taking everything?" Quincy whispered. "I'm not bailing you out, Quincy," I said. "I'm buying you out." Honk! A long, aggressive car horn blared from the street below. Quincy flinched violently. He ran back to the window. The man from the SUV was standing by the building entrance, looking up at the window. He pointed at his watch. "They're still there," Quincy wept. "Mom, they don't care about the trust. They just want their money. If I walk out there broke, they'll kill me." I looked out the window. The man was big, imposing, a threat I couldn't stamp away. "He's right, Estelle," Elias said quietly. "The syndicate doesn't recognize legal seizures. They'll assume he's holding out." I looked at Quincy. He was a wreck of a man, my son. Otis had told me to use the card if the music stopped. He didn't tell me to let the audience tear the theater down. "We can't let them take him," I said. Quincy looked at me with a flicker of hope. "You'll pay them?" "No," I said. I turned to Elias. "Call the police." Quincy's face fell. "Police?" "Fraud," Elias said, already dialing on his phone. "Attempted real estate fraud, forging a deed. That's a felony, Quincy." You're turning me in?" Quincy gasped. "Jail is safer than the sidewalk, Quincy," Elias said, putting the phone to his ear. "At least in prison, the sharks can't get to your thumbs." Cut to 15 minutes later. The elevator doors ding open, but it's not buyers coming out. 2 uniformed Chicago police officers walked into the conference room. They looked way too big for the space. "Quincy Hargrove?" the first officer asked. Quincy nodded numbly. He didn't try to run. Where could he go? The sharks were downstairs. I owned everything else. "Stand up and put your hands behind your back," the officer said. Quincy stood up. He turned around. Click, 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 click. The sound of the handcuffs tightening was louder than anything else in the room. It was metallic. Final. It echoed the sound of the deadbolt from yesterday morning. Melanie was sobbing in the corner, her face buried in her hands. The officers led Quincy to the door. As they passed me, Quincy stopped. He looked at me. His eyes were red-rimmed, stripped of all their charm and arrogance. He looked like the little boy who used to scrape his knees and come running to me for a bandage. But I didn't have any bandages left. "Mom," he whispered. I looked at him. I thought about the snow. I thought about the piano. I thought about Otis, dying in that dim room, worried about this exact moment. "Goodbye, son," I said. The officers let him out. The door closed softly behind them. I walked to the window. I watched as they led him out of the building. The man from the black SUV took one look at the police, got back in his car, and drove away. Quincy was safe, and he was gone. I stood alone in the glass cage high above the city. I had won. The house was mine. The debt was mine. My son was in cuffs. I touched the black card on the table. It felt colder than ever. December 16th, 2024, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. The banging on the door was different this time. It wasn't the polite knock of a neighbor. It was the authoritative heavy fist of the Cook County Sheriff. Bam, bam, bam. I stood on the sidewalk, watching. The snow was falling again, soft and white, covering the slush from Tuesday. The door opened. Melanie stood there. She wasn't wearing her heels today. She was wearing sweatpants and her hair was pulled back in a frantic, messy bun. "Mrs. Hargrove," the sheriff said. His voice carried clearly in the cold air. "I have a writ of possession for the Hargrove Sovereign Trust." "You can't do this," Melanie shrieked. Her voice cracked, thin and hysterical. "My husband is in jail. I have a child." "You have 10 minutes to vacate the premises," the sheriff said calmly, "or we will assist you." I walked up the steps. The sound of my boots on the stone was steady. Crunch, crunch. Melanie saw me. She grabbed the door frame, her knuckles turning white. "Estelle," she screamed, Tell him this is a mistake." "It's no mistake, Melanie," I said. She let go of the door and lunged toward me. The deputy stepped in between us, his hand resting on his belt. "You're throwing us on the street?" Melanie sobbed. "Think of Leo. How can he live like this? You're punishing your own grandson because you hate me." The screaming stopped. The wind died down. The only sound left was the ragged breathing of a woman who had lost her bet. "I did think of him," I said. My voice was low, but it hit her like a physical blow. "What?" "I was at Mr. Abernathy's office at 8 this morning," I said. "I set up a new trust, an irrevocable education and housing trust." Melanie wiped her nose. Her eyes darted back and forth. "For Quincy." "For Leo," I said. "Tuition, housing, a monthly allowance. It's fully funded." Hope flared in her eyes. So we can stay?" "No," I said. "Leo is covered. You are not." I stepped closer. I could smell the stale fear on her. "The money goes directly to his school," I explained. "The housing allowance goes directly to the landlord. Not a cent passes through your hands, not a penny for your cleaning fees. You can't." "I made sure he will never depend on you," I said. "And I made sure you can never use him as a hostage again." The sheriff checked his watch. "Time's up, ma'am." "Estelle," she wailed as the deputy guided her down the stairs. I walked past her. I stepped across the threshold. The house smelled of staging furniture and betrayal, but underneath that, faintly, it smelled of lemon polish and old wood. It smelled like home. I closed the door. Click. The lock engaged. This time, I was on the inside. December 20th, 2024, Wednesday afternoon. The pen scratched against the paper. Scritch scratch. It was a soothing sound, the sound of order being restored. I sat in Elias Abernathy's office. The chaos of the last week felt miles away. Here, there was only mahogany, leather, and the law. "That's the last one," Elias said, capping his pen. "The Leo Hargrove Education Trust is active." I set the pen down. My hand was tired but steady. "And Quincy?" I asked. Elias sighed. He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "He's being held at Cook County Jail," Elias said. "Protective custody. The fraud charges are serious, Estelle. Forging a deed is a Class 2 felony. With the amount involved, he's looking at 3 to 7 years. And the sharks?" "The syndicate has backed off," Elias said. "They don't touch guys who are already in the system. Too much heat. Ironically, turning him in saved his life. Remember Quincy, my son, the man who tried to sell my life to save his own skin? He was safe now. He was in a cage, wearing orange instead of Italian wool, but he was breathing." "He called," Elias said softly. "He wants to know if you'll post bail." I looked out the window. The city was decked out for Christmas. Red and green lights blinked in the distance. "If I bail him out," I said, "he's vulnerable. The sharks will be waiting." "Likely," Elias agreed. "And if I bail him out, he learns nothing." I picked up my tea. It was hot Earl Grey, just the way Otis liked it. "Pay for his lawyer, Elias," I said. "Get him the best defense attorney in Chicago. I want him to have a fair fight. But bail? No," I said. "He stays in until the trial." Elias nodded slowly. Mercy, but not foolishness. "He wanted a roof over his head," I said, my voice trembling just a little. "Now he has one. It's just not the one he wanted. We spend our lives trying to clear the path for our children. We shovel the snow before they can slip. But sometimes the greatest act of love is putting down the shovel and letting them feel the cold. "You're a strong woman, Estelle," Elias said. "I had a good teacher," I replied, tapping the black card on the desk. Otis taught me that love isn't just a warm hug. Sometimes it's a steel wall. I had to choose between saving my son's comfort or saving his life. If you agree with my choice, hit the like button. December 24th, 2024, Christmas Eve. The fire crackled in the hearth. Pop, hiss. It was the only light in the living room, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls. The room wasn't empty anymore. The sectional sofa was gone. The beige staging chairs were gone. In their place, sitting proud and black and gleaming, was the Steinway. The movers, Elias's security team, had brought it back 3 days ago. They had polished every inch of it. There wasn't a scratch on it. "Grandma," I turned. Leo was standing in the doorway. He was wearing his dinosaur pajamas and holding a mug of hot chocolate with 2 hands. "Hey, baby," I said. "Careful, it's hot." He walked over and sat next to me on the piano bench. His legs swung back and forth, too short to reach the pedals. "Is Daddy coming home for Christmas?" he asked. The question hung in the air, heavy as smoke. "Not this year, Leo," I said softly. He's in a timeout, a long one." "Because he was bad?" "Because he made mistakes," I said. "And when we make mistakes, we have to fix them, even Daddy's." Leo nodded. He took a sip of his cocoa. "Slurp." "I like it better here," he whispered, "with the piano." "Me too. Can you play?" he asked. "The sad song? The one Grandpa liked?" I smiled. "It's not a sad song, Leo. It's a nocturne. It's about the night." I placed my hands on the keys. The ivory felt cool and familiar under my fingers. It felt like shaking hands with an old friend. I pressed down. The sound wasn't just a note. It was a vibration that traveled up my arms and settled in my heart. A rich, deep C minor chord that filled the empty spaces of the house. I began to play Chopin. The notes floated up toward the high ceilings, swirling with the smoke from the fire. Leo leaned his head against my shoulder. I could feel his breathing slow down. He was safe. The sharks were gone. The thieves were gone. The music had stopped for a moment, but now it was playing again. December 24th, 2024, night. I stood on the porch, wrapped in my cashmere shawl. The street was quiet. The snow had stopped falling, leaving everything covered in a pristine white blanket. It looked innocent, just like it had looked 12 days ago when I stood on this same mat with a suitcase and a broken heart. I looked at the frosted glass of the door. They say you never really know someone until you divorce them. But I say, you never really know someone until you share an inheritance with them. I thought I knew my son. I thought I knew my grief. But Otis knew better. He knew that grief makes us weak, but protecting our legacy makes us dangerous. He gave me a card, but he really gave me permission to fight back. I took a deep breath of the icy air. It didn't sting anymore. It felt clean. I lost a son this winter. I know that. He might be alive, but the boy I raised is gone, replaced by a man who saw me as a liability. But I saved the family. I saved the house. And I saved Leo. I touched the black card in my pocket one last time. I wouldn't need it again. Quincy was handled. The trust was secure. I turned back to the door. Clack. I unlocked it. Thud. I closed it behind me. This time, I was the one holding the keys. Thank you so much for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next one. Drop your country flag and location in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from. And if you're still not subscribed, seriously, what's stopping you? Your feedback means a lot and helps me improve every story.